Oh, welcome, Internet Land. So I was looking at a post on Okinawa. I used to live there, something like that. And the post is about surviving a particular typhoon, I think in the 80s or 90s. And I wasn't there in the 80s or 90s. I was there in the 60s and 70s, though. So I thought I would relate a story about one typhoon. We went through more than one, let me tell you that. People here in the States, they're like, oh no, a hurricane's coming. And I'm like, yeah, so what? You've never been through a typhoon, have you? When typhoons hit Okinawa, you're looking at satellite photos and photos from aircraft, you cannot see the island. You can't see any of the outlying islands. You cannot see the main island. You can't see anything. Now, well, I mean, Japan is to the north, but Japan's a much larger island. Actually, just like Okinawa, it's made up of smaller islands, but Japan also has that huge island. I don't know if you can, when a typhoon hits, I don't know if you can see Japan or not. I would think it would not be visible, but I could be wrong because it's a lot longer as well. But I thought I'd relate a story and share it. Oh goodness, I must have still been in nursery school or kindergarten, and as we lived in Okinawa Heights, which is way up on top of a hill. Oh, they refer to them as mountains over there, but we would consider them hills. And we had a really nice house. It was, I think, a 2-bedroom, one bath, had a kitchen, a living room, and you could see the China Sea from our yard. My dad had built me a playhouse, and I guess when we were moving or when I got older, he gave it to my nursery school, which is Okinawa Nursery School. Anyway, when there's a typhoon coming, what you do is you put tape on the windows, or you board up the windows. Make sure anything that has to be left outside is fastened down really well. If you think the hurricane's bad, you don't know nothing until you've been through a typhoon. So anyway, excuse me. So this typhoon comes through, and this typhoon comes through, and I guess the eye had come over, and my dad went outside to make sure everything was okay, see if anything needed to be resecured, whatever. I had a swing set in the yard, so they had to really fasten that down, and they had a nice little brick fence or wall around the house. It was only like 3 or 4 feet tall. It was taller than I was. But anyway, so the eye comes out. You could feel the pressure, the change in air pressure. A really eerie feeling. Even at that age, I can remember it was like an eerie feeling. So anyway, so my dad is going outside, and I'm like, Daddy, please, can I go see? I'm talking like 4 or 5 years old, maybe between 4 and 6 years old, let's say. And probably 4 or 5. And finally my dad relented, and he let me go outside. And oh boy, you look up at the sky. Sorry, I'm having a hard time with my back and neck today, so I have to be careful. Plus I have that rod in my neck, so I have to be careful anyway. But anyway, so and by the way, I'm stopping this. This is, I mean, it worked for me. It's working actually, but it's I'm not going to get into it. But the first time I took it didn't affect me in any negative way. Damn it! Can't even hold on to anything. But I'm not going to get into it. But I stopped that. So anyway, he let me outside. You know, the ground was saturated, of course, but we lived on top of a hill, so it's not like we had to worry about being flooded out. I feel bad for the people that live in the village near us, because they lived on very low ground, and the village was 50 yards from the ocean, from the China Sea. You know, it was really, really close. So, anyway, you know, and they lived in a, like I said, it was much lower and flatter where they were. But I used to go to that village. I assume the name of the village was Okinawa Village, but I don't really know. I used to go there sometimes by myself, sometimes with friends. I wasn't supposed to go over there, but me follow rules? Yeah. I'm not very good at that. But anyway, there are these tins. They weren't aluminum because they were sturdier than aluminum. We got, oh, it says ginger ale. We got that free today. Got 2 of them. Anyway, it didn't taste like ginger ale. It tasted more like carbonated, like soda, like carbonated water. Didn't really taste the ginger in there. Anyway, I used to go down there and they'd have tins, but it was sturdy. It wasn't aluminum. It was a better quality metal, and they look like little whiskey flasks or alcohol flasks. And you unscrew the lid, and it's like little hard candies, not those salted prunes or whatever. We didn't eat those. I don't ever remember those on Okinawa, but from what I've seen, that they did exist. But anyway, so they were little hard candies like Jolly Ranchers. It's the closest thing I can think of. I love those things. Boy, did I love those things. Only once here in the United States have I found those candies. Once. That was in Little Tokyo in Houston. So, but I wish I could find it because I loved those as a kid. And those little tins are, you know, they're decorative. They're nice to have around. At the time, I probably knew what some of the writing on the tins meant. Or maybe I recognized characters. I mean, you know, like the characters that were drawn on. I don't anymore. I do have kin. I do have family that would presumably know what some of that stuff was. I don't. I couldn't read that stuff now. I mean, when you're the age I was, and you're in a country that speaks multiple languages, especially when you live in civilian housing and your friends, your neighbors are Okinawans, you're going to pick it up, right? I mean, like, we were always taught that our elders were Mama-san or Papa-san. Except for the babies, they were Baby-san. And we had not flags, they were like, well, flags. They're round. And for certain days of the year, we would fly them. So would everybody else. You have to understand my dad. When he was growing up, he had friends whose parents were from Japan. This is in Canada. And when the war started, mind you, the parents were from Japan. Kids were from Canada. Kids were not Japanese. They were Canadian. But when the war started, the family was told you either go to, for the parents, go back to, for the kids, go to Japan, or you move to the interior. My understanding of what their attitude was, look, you trust us that much, were loyal citizens of Canada. Oh, I don't know if they were technically citizens, but they had lived there long enough. If you trust us that much, then why should we stay? So they went to Japan. And what happened? Two of the kids wound up serving in the Japanese Navy. And one of my uncles was Canadian Navy on that side of the country, on the Pacific side. My father and grandfather both served in the North Atlantic. But my dad served in the Merchant Navy, not the Navy. But he kept in touch with the family up till he died. I wish I could find out who they are. Maybe the kids and grandkids, because the adults, it's possible some of the adults are still with us, but they would be quite old. And I lost the picture in the fire, so I don't have that. I have a scanned copy of it somewhere. But I don't read Japanese, so I don't know what it says. But I'm glad my dad didn't have to serve in the Pacific. I'm glad my granddad didn't have to serve in the Pacific for multiple reasons, but the main reason, so they didn't have to be concerned with, are those my friends that I'm fighting against? Although with that said, one of my aunties married a German, and we went to visit his family when we were living in Germany. So I had another uncle that was RAF, and he didn't come home. He was a crew member of Handley Page Halifax. And I think of my best friend, my BFF. I mean, he's still my BFF, I guess, even though he passed away. He was like 6 or 7 when he passed. His dad had been a German soldier. What if Steffi's dad shot down my uncle? I mean, can you imagine what that would be like? I mean, you're fighting against your own family and friends, It's really heavy, man. Anyway, so I just wanted to share that. I loved Okinawa. I loved it to death. I wish I could go back. Take my wife with me. But so much has changed. It's like, from when I look at satellite images, the entire southern end of the island is nothing but one big city now. I mean, that's what it looks like. And when we lived there, it wasn't like that. But, I love that island. I love everything about it. Her people, the physical land. Okay, so I didn't like the fact that people were still dying from the war. 25 years later, and they're still finding ordnance, unexploded ordnance, booby traps, and human remains and stuff like that. But I loved living in Makinado Heights. I loved that because we didn't have all the rules and regulations that you do on base. And it was a really nice house. It was a brick house with a brick fence around it, or brick wall. You could see the China Sea. One of our neighbors had a boxer, and I was scared to death of him because I thought, well, he's a boxer, so he's going to get up and box me. That's how young I was. The boogeyman. I was over at a friend's house. I didn't want to leave. Finally, the older brother said, if you don't get home now, the boogeyman's going to get you. And I'm like, uh-oh, the boogeyman. So the entire time I'm walking home, I'm looking everywhere to see if I see this boogeyman. I didn't notice a single other person. It was just me worried about the boogeyman. So, anyway, have a good day.